Have you ever poured your heart and soul into creating a perfect sanctuary, only to have it invaded by the one person you're supposed to be able to trust? After years of hard work as a software engineer, I created a cozy space that was all mine. My father worked as an accountant, bringing his controlling nature home from the office. My mother, a homemaker with a talent for passive-aggressive comments, constantly reminded me that as the older sister, I needed to help Bianca. When she crashed her first car just 3 months after getting her license, my parents suggested I give her my reliable used Honda that I had saved for over 2 years to buy. When I refused, the cold shoulder treatment lasted for weeks. Bianca could never hold an apartment for longer than 6 months. Each time, my parents would rush to her rescue, paying off landlords or moving her back home temporarily. They also expected me to offer financial support, which I did, until I realized I was enabling her behavior just as they were. My journey to independence was hard-earned. Unlike Bianca, I received no financial support for college. After graduation, I landed an entry-level software engineering position at a tech startup. The salary was modest, but it was enough to share an apartment with 3 roommates in a less desirable part of the city. For 4 years, I lived frugally, taking on extra freelance projects and gradually climbing the career ladder. My goal remained fixed in my mind: a place of my own, where I could establish the peace and order that had been missing throughout my childhood. I spent weekends scouring thrift stores and discount retailers for furniture that expressed my style. For the first time, I created a space that reflected who I was, not what others expected me to be. My father would interrogate me about my savings and retirement plans, suggesting I was being irresponsible by living alone instead of with roommates. My mother would comment on my appearance, implying that my focus on my career was making me look tired and old before your time. Bianca usually arrived late, if at all, yet faced no criticism. The most significant boundary I established was financial. After calculating how much money I had given Bianca over the years in loans that were never repaid, I was shocked to discover it exceeded $15,000. I made it clear that my bank account was no longer available for emergencies of her creation. Between dramatic sobs, she announced she was being evicted from her current apartment because her roommate was totally psycho about rent being late. I felt a wave of relief that they hadn't asked me to take her in. Looking back, I should have recognized the calculated looks they exchanged. I should have noticed how my mother asked seemingly innocent questions about my work schedule and when I would be traveling next. But I was too focused on maintaining the fragile peace and protecting my hard-won independence to see the warning signs. I had no idea that my small acts of trust would soon lead to the complete invasion of the sanctuary I had worked so hard to create. The day started normally enough. I woke at 6:30, went for a quick jog around the neighborhood, showered, and caught the bus to the tech campus where I worked. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patel, my elderly neighbor from across the hall. I stared at the message, confusion turning quickly to alarm. I had no sister moving in. The 30-minute bus ride felt like hours. My mind raced with possibilities. Had Mrs. Patel confused me with another resident? Could Bianca have somehow convinced my landlord she lived with me? When I finally arrived at my apartment building, I noticed nothing unusual in the lobby. The elevator ride to the 4th floor seemed interminable. I moved in stunned silence through the space I no longer recognized as entirely mine. The bathroom was even worse. A pair of wet leggings was draped over the shower curtain rod. But the true violation awaited me in the bedroom. There, sprawled across my bed in a tangle of my favorite sheets, lay Bianca, mouth open, snoring lightly, an eye mask pushed up on her forehead. She looked completely at home, as if this invasion was the most natural thing in the world. Next to the bed, a small bedside table that had not been there before held her phone, a glass of water, and a framed photo of her with friends. The horrible realization crashed over me. Someone had made copies of my keys. I felt physically ill. "Bianca," I said sharply, my voice cutting through her peaceful slumber. She stirred slowly, squinting up at me with confusion before recognition dawned. Her casual tone, as if her presence in my bedroom was completely normal, left me momentarily speechless. When I found my voice again, it emerged as a strangled whisper. "What are you doing here? How did you get into my apartment?" Bianca sat up, pushing her tangled hair from her face. Mom and Dad said it would be fine. They helped me move some stuff in yesterday and the rest today. Mom and Dad said it would be fine? I repeated, my shock giving way to anger. Bianca rolled her eyes as if I was being needlessly dramatic. The pieces clicked into place. Pack your things right now. This is illegal. You cannot stay here. Bianca looked genuinely surprised by my reaction. Don't be ridiculous. Mom and Dad said I could stay as long as I needed. They said you have all this space to yourself and family helps family. Well, I can't leave now, she said with finality. I need to call Mom and Dad, I said finally, stepping out of the bedroom to collect myself. Whatever, Bianca called after me. They'll tell you the same thing. And I'm taking a nap now, so keep it down, okay? I had a really exhausting day moving. In the living room, I noticed more details of the invasion. I just came home to find Bianca has moved into my apartment without my permission. She says you and Mom gave her keys and told her she could live here. Well, of course we helped her move in. Family helps family, Alexis. You have that whole apartment to yourself while your sister was facing homelessness. What were we supposed to do? My mother came on the line then, her voice taking on that wounded tone she used when playing the victim. After all we have done for you, this is how you repay us. By turning your back on your sister when she needs you? We raised you better than this, Alexis. Absolutely not, my father barked. Really, Alexis? This selfish streak of yours is very unattractive. Your sister would do the same for you. After another 10 minutes of circular arguments, guilt trips, and thinly veiled threats about being cut off from the family, I ended the call, no closer to a resolution. After my parents refused to intervene, I tried reasoning with Bianca again, explaining that while I understood she needed help, moving in without my consent was not acceptable. When I retreated to my bedroom to gather my thoughts, I discovered she had already reorganized my closet to make room for her clothes, pushing my carefully hung work attire to one cramped section. Around 7, Bianca took over the living room, turning the television volume up to watch reality shows while scrolling through social media. When I mentioned I usually worked on my laptop in that space in the evenings, she suggested I use the kitchen table or something. She then proceeded to eat the meal prep food I had prepared for my lunches that week, commenting that it was kind of bland but better than nothing. By 9:30, she had invited 2 friends over without asking, all 3 of them talking loudly and mixing drinks in my kitchen. When I objected, she rolled her eyes and said, "It's just a couple of friends. Don't be such a buzzkill." Despite my apartment's strict no-smoking policy, Bianca and her friends had left for a club, not bothering to clean up or even lock the door properly. The next morning, bleary-eyed from lack of sleep, I called my best friend Zoe before work. "Look, my cousin is a lawyer. At a minimum, you need to document everything and change your locks immediately." At work, I confided in my coworker Jordan, who had mentioned dealing with a boundary-pushing roommate in the past. His eyes widened as I described the situation. "You need to treat this like the crime it is, because that's exactly what happened here." What I discovered confirmed my suspicions. Making unauthorized key copies, entering without permission, and moving someone in without the leaseholder's consent were all illegal actions. My landlord could potentially evict me if an unauthorized tenant was discovered living in the unit. When I returned home that evening, I attempted to establish some ground rules with Bianca. She glanced at the list, laughed, and let it float to the floor. "Yeah, I'm not really a rules person," she said before returning to her video chat with a friend. That night, she used my expensive skincare products, leaving the caps off so they dried out. She borrowed my laptop charger because hers was somewhere in a box. Each violation was met with a casual shrug or an eye roll when I pointed it out. By day 3, I was at my breaking point. I offered to help Bianca find her own place, even suggesting I could assist with the security deposit if necessary. "That's not how it works," I explained, trying to maintain my composure. "You're not on the lease. You have no legal right to be here." I gave her a deadline, 3 days to make arrangements and move out, or I would be forced to take more serious action. She laughed in my face. Her confidence in her position, and in my unwillingness to truly stand up for myself, was perhaps the most infuriating part. But she had miscalculated badly this time. This was my home, my safe space, the physical manifestation of all my hard work and independence. And I was not going to let them take it from me without a fight. The next week was an exercise in escalating violations. Each day brought new evidence that Bianca had no intention of respecting my space or belongings. By Thursday, I realized my gold necklace from our grandmother was missing from my jewelry box, along with $60 from the emergency cash I kept in my desk. Bianca hosted late-night gatherings that stretched until 2 or 3 in the morning, despite my repeated reminders that I had to be up at 6 for work. My mother bustled in with shopping bags, not bothering to knock or announce their arrival. I brought some groceries and those cookies you liked as a child, Alexis. The casual assumption that Bianca's presence was now permanent made my blood run cold. Before I could respond, Bianca emerged from my bedroom, greeting our parents with enthusiasm. "I was just about to call you," she gushed. "The closet space here is so limited. I was thinking maybe we could convert part of the living room into a wardrobe area for me." They continued this conversation as if I wasn't even present, discussing my apartment as though it was a shared family property open to renovation. When I finally managed to interject, pointing out that any changes would need my approval as the leaseholder, my father fixed me with the stern look he had used throughout my childhood to silence dissent. "Your sister needs stability right now, and you have more than enough space here. In fact," he glanced around with a calculating expression, "it makes more sense for Bianca to take the bedroom since she has more things. You could easily make do with the sofa bed we could buy for the living room." I stared at him in disbelief. "You want me to give up my bedroom in my own apartment that I pay for?" "Don't be selfish," my mother chimed in, already rearranging my decorative pillows without permission. "Your sister has been through so much lately with her breakup and job situation. The least you could do is make her comfortable." Their visit lasted 2 excruciating hours, during which they continued to rearrange my furniture, critique my decorating choices, and make plans for Bianca's permanent setup. They spoke about installing additional shelving, replacing my desk with a vanity for Bianca, and even painting the walls a color she preferred. Not once did they acknowledge that this was my space or that I had any say in these decisions. After they finally left, promising to return on Sunday with supplies for the renovation, I sat in stunned silence while Bianca cheerfully outlined her plans for our apartment. The reality of the situation crashed down on me. The final straw came the next morning. I had an important virtual meeting scheduled with clients, requiring my home office setup with the external monitor and professional background I had carefully arranged. My desk had been pushed against the wall, the monitor unplugged and moved to the floor. In place of my workspace was a makeshift vanity with Bianca's extensive makeup collection spread across the surface. My desk chair now held a pile of her laundry. "I needed the desk space for my makeup," she replied with a shrug. "You can work from the kitchen table, or better yet, just go to your actual office. That's what offices are for, right? I have a client meeting in 30 minutes. I need my setup." I was nearly shouting now, panic rising as I calculated how quickly I could reassemble everything. "Maybe you should have mentioned it earlier." As I frantically tried to reconnect my equipment, I discovered my work laptop had been moved as well, important documents shoved carelessly into a drawer. "Why are my personal financial documents out?" I asked, holding up the folder with shaking hands. Bianca at least had the decency to look momentarily uncomfortable. Mom and Dad needed some information. Something about adding me to the lease or whatever. "That's fraud, Bianca. That is literally fraud. Don't be so dramatic. Dad said it's just a formality since I live here now," she waved dismissively. "Anyway, I'm going out. Good luck with your meeting or whatever." My parents weren't just enabling Bianca's invasion of my space. Sitting on the edge of the bathtub, I finally allowed myself to break down. The tears came in violent, silent sobs that shook my entire body. This was not just about an inconsiderate houseguest or family overstepping boundaries. When the tears subsided, a cold clarity took their place. Reasoning would not work. My family had shown they had no respect for me, my space, or my legal rights. If they were willing to potentially commit fraud to solidify Bianca's position in my apartment, there was no telling what else they might do. When he answered, I explained the situation as calmly as I could, emphasizing that I had not given permission for anyone to live with me or be added to the lease. His response confirmed my worst fears. "I received a call yesterday from someone claiming to be your father," Arthur said, concern evident in his voice. The thought of losing my apartment because of my family's actions was the final push I needed. "I will handle this situation immediately. Please do not accept any documentation regarding my lease, unless it comes directly from me with my signature in person. No more negotiations, no more attempts at compromise." It was time to reclaim my space and my independence, by legal means if necessary. The attorney I called, Eleanor Winters, agreed to see me that same afternoon. I rescheduled my client meeting, claiming a family emergency, which wasn't far from the truth. Arriving at her downtown office, I was a bundle of nerves, still questioning if taking legal action against my own family was an overreaction. "What your family has done constitutes several violations of the law," she stated plainly. "Unauthorized key duplication, illegal entry, trespassing, potential identity theft given the access to your financial documents, and attempted lease fraud. These are not minor infractions, Alexis. These are serious invasions of your legal rights. I could pursue a restraining order against all 3 family members, file criminal charges for the illegal entry and potential fraud, or initiate a civil suit for damages. Each path had different implications and requirements. The most immediate concern is securing your apartment," Eleanor advised. "You need to change the locks today with your landlord's permission, of course. You should also document everything. Take photographs of the current state of your apartment and any damage. Save text messages or emails that demonstrate they knew they were acting without your consent. If you have a building with security cameras, request footage showing when they moved Bianca's belongings in." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of validation and sorrow. It was both comforting and devastating to have a legal professional confirm that my family's actions were not just hurtful, but criminal. "What about Bianca's claim that she can't be removed because she's now a resident?" I asked, remembering her confident assertion. Eleanor shook her head firmly. "In Washington state, to establish tenancy, there needs to be an agreement with the actual leaseholder, which is you. Your parents cannot create tenancy on your behalf without your consent. Since Bianca has only been there for a short time and has not established legal residency through proper channels, you have every right to have her removed as a trespasser." I left Eleanor's office with a clear action plan and her card in my pocket. He was sympathetic and agreed readily, even offering to arrange for the locksmith himself and expedite the process given the circumstances. Next, I went through my phone, taking screenshots of all relevant text messages, including Bianca's casual admission that our parents had made copies of my keys without permission. By the time I returned to my apartment, a locksmith was already finishing up the new deadbolt installation. Inside, I systematically photographed every room, documenting the displacement of my belongings, the damage to several items, and the overall takeover of my space. I created an inventory of missing or damaged items, the stained dress, the missing jewelry and cash, my expensive skincare products now empty, the coffee-stained work documents. With the physical security measures in place, I contacted building security and provided them with photos of my parents and Bianca, explaining that they were not authorized to enter my apartment under any circumstances. If they attempted to do so, security was to contact me immediately and, if necessary, the police. Following Eleanor's advice, I filed a police report detailing the unauthorized key duplication, illegal entry, and trespassing. The officer who took my statement was professional and non-judgmental, even when I explained I was reporting my own family members. "Unfortunately, we see this kind of thing more often than you might think," he told me. "Family disputes over property and boundaries can get complicated. You're doing the right thing by addressing it through proper legal channels." With all preparations complete, I waited. Bianca had been out all day, presumably expecting to return to the apartment whenever she pleased, just as she had been doing. My parents had mentioned coming by on Sunday with their renovation supplies. "Please ask her to wait in the lobby," I replied. "I will be down shortly, and I will have police officers with me." 2 officers met me in the lobby, where a furious Bianca was pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear. "I've been trying to get in for 20 minutes. I had to call security like some kind of visitor. These officers are here because you have been living in my apartment without my permission. The locks have been changed because you and our parents made unauthorized copies of my keys, which is illegal. Your living arrangement was never authorized by me, the legal tenant," I continued, trying to stick to the facts as Eleanor had advised. "I'm not going anywhere," she snarled, turning to the officers. "This is my apartment too. I live here now." That explained the phone call. Within 15 minutes, my parents' car screeched into the apartment parking lot. They rushed in, my father's face purple with rage, my mother already in tears. The officers calmly explained the situation. My mother turned to me, her expression a mixture of hurt and manipulation that I had seen countless times before. "What you have done is break the law," I replied, surprising myself with my composure. "We were helping your sister," my father shouted. "That's what families do. They help each other." "Sir, I need you to lower your voice," one of the officers warned. Unauthorized entry is still illegal entry. The officers maintained a professional demeanor throughout, repeatedly explaining the legal realities of the situation. Bianca vacillated between angry outbursts and tearful pleas, accusing me of betrayal and heartlessness. My parents insisted on accompanying us, despite my objection. The officers agreed but warned that any aggressive behavior would result in their removal from the building. "You think you can lock out your own family? After everything we have sacrificed for you." "Sir, I asked you to remain calm," the officer reminded him. My mother began dramatically gathering Bianca's things, making a show of how difficult and unreasonable I was being. "I can't believe you would put your own sister out on the street," she wept, ignoring the fact that Bianca could easily return to their home. Bianca herself stomped around the apartment, grabbing items indiscriminately, including several that belonged to me. When I pointed this out, she sneered, "Considerate payment for my emotional distress." The officers intervened, ensuring she returned my property. The breaking point came when my father discovered the police report I had filed, which was sitting on my kitchen counter. He snatched it up, read it quickly, and then advanced toward me, his face contorted with rage. One of the officers immediately stepped between us. "Sir, I need you to step back right now." The officer grabbed his arm, warning him to calm down. My father's response was to try to wrench free, inadvertently striking the officer in the process. The officers moved quickly, restraining my father and informing him he was under arrest for assaulting a police officer. My mother screamed, rushing toward them, only to be held back by the second officer. She managed to scratch my cheek before an officer pulled her away, adding another charge of assault to the growing list of offenses. My father continued to shout threats and accusations. My mother wept dramatically, begging the officers to understand it was all a misunderstanding. Bianca alternated between sobbing and hurling insults at me. As they were led out of my apartment, I stood in stunned silence, my cheek stinging from Bianca's scratch, watching as my family was taken into police custody. This was not how I had envisioned the confrontation ending. I had wanted them to understand boundaries, to recognize the seriousness of their actions, to perhaps even apologize. Instead, their inability to accept responsibility or respect legal boundaries had resulted in their arrest. The apartment fell silent after they left, the absence of chaos almost as disorienting as its presence had been. But at what cost? The relationships with my family, as dysfunctional as they were, might never recover from this. Yet, beneath the guilt and uncertainty, there was a small growing sense of relief. The locks were changed, the security camera was in place, and my apartment was once again my own. It was a painful victory, but a victory nonetheless. Within hours of their release, my phone began lighting up with calls and texts, not just from them, but from extended family members who had received a heavily edited version of events. The harassment became so intense that I was forced to change my phone number, providing the new one only to close friends, my workplace, and my attorney. Even with this precaution, messages found their way to me through social media, email, and even notes left at my workplace reception desk. The narrative my parents spread painted me as mentally unstable, ungrateful, and cruel, turning family members who had never been particularly close to me against me entirely. The weight of being cast as the villain in my own story was almost unbearable. I took a week of emergency leave from work, partly to deal with the legal aftermath and partly because I couldn't focus with so much chaos swirling around me. I spent hours cleaning, rearranging, and reclaiming my space. I scrubbed away coffee stains, repaired what could be fixed, and carefully documented what was permanently damaged for the restitution claim Eleanor advised me to file. He installed a peephole camera that would allow me to see who was at my door from my phone, an unexpected kindness that brought me to tears of gratitude. The legal process moved forward with methodical precision. A temporary restraining order was granted almost immediately, preventing my parents and Bianca from coming within 100 feet of me, my home, or my workplace. The court date for the permanent order was set for 3 weeks later, giving both sides time to prepare. My parents hired an expensive attorney who contacted Eleanor with a settlement offer. They would pay for the damages to my apartment if I dropped all charges and the restraining order. Eleanor advised against accepting. The restraining order protects you legally, she explained. Without it, there's nothing preventing them from trying something like this again. And the criminal charges are not yours to drop. Those are being pursued by the state, based on their actions toward the police officers. When we appeared in court for the restraining order hearing, I saw my family for the first time since the night of their arrest. My father looked smaller somehow, his usual commanding presence diminished by the formal setting where he held no authority. My mother had dressed carefully, clearly hoping to project an image of a respectable, wronged parent. Bianca glared at me from across the courtroom, her hostility palpable even from a distance. When my turn came, Eleanor presented evidence methodically. The text messages, the security footage showing my parents and Bianca moving her things in while I was clearly at work, the documentation from the locksmith about the unauthorized key duplication, and testimony from Mrs. Patel about conversations where Bianca admitted her parents had arranged the move-in without my knowledge. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, listened to both sides before speaking. Her ruling was unambiguous. The restraining order would be made permanent for 1 year, at which point I could request renewal if necessary. My parents left the courtroom without looking at me, their faces rigid with suppressed anger. Bianca shot me one last venomous glare before following them. It felt like the severing of a tie, painful but necessary, like removing a tumor that had been growing for years. My parents received probation and community service for their charges, while Bianca, with her assault charge and previous record of petty offenses, faced more serious consequences. But there were surprising exceptions. She did the same thing to me when I was in college, showing up at my dorm with boxes announcing she had decided I would move back home because dorm life was too distracting. I gave in then. "I'm proud of you for standing your ground." They didn't want to keep supporting her, Sarah explained. This revelation shifted my understanding of what had happened. It hadn't just been about control or boundary violations, though those were certainly factors. This wasn't just about me. Despite the clarity brought by these revelations, the emotional toll was immense. I jumped at unexpected sounds and checked my security camera obsessively. Dr. Lin, a compassionate therapist specializing in family issues, helped me understand that my reactions were normal responses to having my safe space violated. The legal matter settled into the background, the restraining order doing its job of keeping my family at a distance. The apartment that had felt tainted by invasion gradually became mine again. Each new decoration or rearrangement, a small act of reclamation. It was healing, this physical restoration paralleling my emotional recovery. And through it all, I carried the hard-earned knowledge that sometimes, love means setting firm boundaries, especially when those boundaries are with the people who should have taught you to have them in the first place. Fast forward 2 years, and my life is almost unrecognizable from the chaos of that time. The promotion at work led to another, and I now lead a team, a role I never would have had the confidence to pursue before. My relationship with Alex blossomed. Last fall, under the string lights in my living room, the very same ones that witnessed so much turmoil asked me to marry him. Our wedding was small and intimate, on a cliff overlooking the Puget Sound, surrounded by our chosen family. Aunt Sarah was there, her smile radiant. Zoe and Jordan stood by our side. Even Mrs. Patel came, bringing a container of her famous cookies. As for Bianca, she finished her program and to everyone's surprise, stayed in Oregon. This one was a simple card. Enclosed was a pressed flower, a small fragile symbol of new growth. I haven't seen my parents. The restraining order expired, but the distance remains. I hear from Sarah that they are quiet, perhaps humbled by the consequences of their actions. The battle was hard won, but the peace it brought is priceless. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening.